Imagine sitting in a doctor's office, learning you have a life-threatening illness, and then discovering the only treatment comes with an impossible price tag. That hope shatters quickly when the bill arrives. This illustrates a brutal reality. A single round of branded medication from a major U.S. pharmaceutical company can cost $10,000 out of pocket. Compare that to the average American earning $3,400 a month. The math simply does not work. But there is an alternative that allows these patients to bypass that impossible math. By importing the exact same medication from generic manufacturers overseas, specifically in India, that $10,000 prescription drops to as little as $12 to $15. For millions of people across the country, this steep price drop is the sole reason they can afford treatment. Accessing the international generic market is a financial and medical lifeline. That lifeline is now in the crosshairs of a proposed trade doctrine from Donald Trump, which specifically targets generic medicines manufactured outside the United States. This graphic shows the rollout of a proposed tax on imports. The plan offers a 1-year grace period with a 0% tariff, before escalating to a 100% tax in year 2 and maxing out at 200% by year 3. The rationale presented to voters relies heavily on industrial protection. The stated goal is to restrict economic expansion of Asian manufacturing hubs and pressure companies into relocating their pharmaceutical plants back to American soil. If these policies successfully wall off the cheapest sources of medicine, it raises an urgent question. When the supply of $12 alternatives disappears, we have to look closely at who actually absorbs the financial blow at the pharmacy counter. To understand the true impact of this tax, we have to look at the global pharmaceutical supply chain. This map shows a trade triangle connecting China, India, and the United States. At the base is China, the world's primary producer of active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs, the raw chemical compounds that make a medication work. India then purchases massive volumes of these raw materials. Indian facilities process those APIs into the final, safe, and regulated generic pills that patients actually swallow. The final leg of the triangle ends in America. The U.S. imports tens of billions of dollars worth of these finished Indian generics every year, creating an enormous supply of affordable alternatives that keeps domestic healthcare costs in check. This flowchart reveals what happens when you introduce a massive trade barrier into that loop. A medication that's cheap to produce overseas instantly triples in cost as it hits the U.S. border, wiping out the profit margin making importing viable. A 200% tax effectively severs the trade lanes that distribute affordable medicine across the globe. With foreign generics priced out of the market, the focus shifts toward the primary domestic winner, American Big Pharma. By artificially inflating the cost of international drugs until they vanish from shelves, the government removes the single biggest source of competition. Domestic pharmaceutical companies are suddenly freed from all external pricing pressure. Without a $12 alternative, the American consumer is backed into a corner. Patients are forced to return to the major domestic brands, paying the original $10,000 monopoly prices out of sheer necessity. The billions in revenue captured by these monopoly prices provide the industry with massive lobbying power. This high-margin business model fuels the very political campaigns that draft and implement these tariffs, creating a self-sustaining cycle of protectionism. The 200% tax transforms a healthcare essential into a state-sanctioned wealth transfer from sick patients to corporate shareholders. Weaponizing the healthcare supply chain also generates severe geopolitical friction. Attempting to isolate two massive economies triggers an immediate diplomatic ripple effect. U.S. officials are well aware of the impending backlash. Figures like Secretary of State Marco Rubio are already signaling that Washington expects significant pushback from trading partners regarding these steep new barriers. On the other side, Indian External Affairs Minister SJaishankar is closely monitoring the situation, prepared to contest a move that threatens to heavily disrupt India's multi-billion-dollar medical export industry. The ability for ordinary people to access affordable healthcare is now caught in the crossfire, serving as diplomatic collateral in a high-stakes standoff between massive international powers. While political rallies frame these tariffs as a heavy shield protecting American jobs, the reality plays out silently in the aisles of your local retail pharmacy. The math of international trade always trickles down to the end user.
Tariffs operate as taxes, meaning a 200% tax levied on an essential good is ultimately paid by the sick person standing at the register. We return to the patient holding a prescription they cannot afford. If the trade routes offering $15 generic drugs are severed, they lose the only viable option keeping them healthy and out of bankruptcy. Protectionist policies are frequently sold as weapons meant to counter foreign superpowers. But when those weapons are aimed at the healthcare supply chain, the first and most devastated casualty is the American consumer.